And we are back live here on NFL Daily. Tom Downey, producer Chris, once again behind the scenes for today's show. We take you through all the things going on around the NFL, maybe most noteworthy of which moments ago, Nico Collins getting a 3-year, around $24 million per year extension from the Houston Texans to lock in one of the better young receivers in the NFL. We will talk more about contracts today, including this question. Should Jordan Love, the Packers quarterback, be among the highest paid QBs in the NFL? Why for yes and for no? We'll break down some reporting from NFL Network that certainly makes it seem like he's about to get a big fat new extension that is going to be, in the words of one reporter, in the Joe Burrow territory that could make him near the top of the highest paid quarterbacks in football. That's a lot of money for what really amounts to a 10-game sample size for Jordan Love. Really what you're paying him on there. So, but at a certain point, it kind of becomes, you either have the quarterback you want to pay him or you don't. And if you don't want to pay him, you're moving on. And if you do want to pay him, it's going to be super expensive. So, why for yes and for no? 56% say no. There you go. Oh, well, I had a cup out there already, but that works too. That's fine. There we go. Water. Nice and cold. Mike says yes because he wants the Packers bankruptcy. That's pretty funny. Tony says yes. Football Rock says no. SMY says yes. Let's see what else we got. 57% are voting no on today's show. James says no as well. If you get the guy that was there the last 10 games, it's a no-brainer. It's also you're basing 10 games after like 4 years. It's a little dicey. But I am also kind of an absolutist when it comes to paying quarterbacks. Either he's worth paying and the money almost doesn't matter within reason, i.e., Derek Carr, or, Daniel Jones, or he's not worth paying and you should move on there. So, yes or no in the comment section. Lodi Rock says hell no. Rashard Lee think people overrate him because of the Cowboys game. We'll break it down more in depth here in today's show. But we'll also talk trades and what the hell is going to go on with Courtland Sutton in Denver. He wants a raise. Denver says no, so he's skipping OTAs, and we'll see what happens there. Now, this is if you were the Broncos, not if you were a team, trying to bankrupt the Broncos like we just had the conversation about Jordan Love there. What would you do with Courtland Sutton? T for you'd trade him if you were Denver. P for you'd pay him and give him the raise. W for you'd wait, and you'd call his bluff and say, no, we're not going to pay you right now. Tony says W. SM says trade to the Rams. Now, is SM a Rams fan? I think he is. So it might be a little bit of a rigged election there. No, Mike, I'm not. Rashard Lee says T. Tony says W. 30 Rack says trade. See, I'd probably wait on him. Because he's missed time. He's been banged up. The production hasn't been there. He's got 2 years left on his contract. Like, that's not someone that I always want to skip to the line to, or the front of the line, and maybe Sutton doesn't like the Nico Collins extension size and goes, see, I should deserve more money, and that's where things get a little bit dicey, although Collins last year was actually super good. He was awesome. So what would you do? T for trade, P for pay, W. I also don't want to trade him, because I need to try to make Bo Nix the best version possible, and having a number one receiver, a top receiving core of 4th-round pick Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims, and Josh Reynolds is not good. That's not good. So when it comes to trades, name a player who you think ends up getting traded this year. Ironically enough, Mike says trade him to the Lions, which would be funny because they got Josh Reynolds back. It would actually be a great fit in Detroit. That's exactly what, that's the exact type of player they don't have, that bigger body. It's a great fit. But I don't think Denver's going to trade him. But player you think gets dealt. Mecklenburg Hardman. I don't think that's a real player. It's like a weird version of Christian Hackenberg and Mecole Hardman combined into one. Debo. Maybe. James Bradbury. It is a little bit more doable after June 1st. So we'll see. He was bad last year for Philly. That's why he said hopefully there. I assume 30 racks. And you have Cooper DeJean. You have Quinyon Mitchell. So there's options there. I just don't know if anyone wants that contract. Josh Allen. That one's not going to happen. Darius Slayton to the Bengals. Also a fourth for T. Higgins. Please, Giants, do the trade. You need a lot more. It's a clever idea. Giants got to give up a lot more. A lot more, I think. Richard says he's trolling with Cooper DeJean in there. Get the comments coming. Who do you think gets traded next? We will also break down the PFF top 2025 running back prospects. There's 14. Is my name right there? 14 names on that front. Ooh, I also like Pluto Herbert in there. And I know, Mike. Also, Josh Allen just got paid. He's not getting traded. There was no running back taken in round 1 this year. Will that change next year? Y for yes, N for no. I'm going to sip some more of my water here. It's got my name on it as a groomsman gift. Which is fun. Y for yes, N for no. I think yes. And we've done our way too early top 25 mock draft. I had a running back in there to Dallas because I thought that was very accurate somehow. C Sporty says yes. Tony says yes. Mike says, yeah, the Falcons have a first, so probably. It's funny. And then next year, maybe they'll go quarterback again. I'm kidding, Falcons fans. Drake says no. Keep the comments coming here. Jeff Bartlett says no as well. Y or N in the comments section. I meant to put this in there. Let's go to hashtag NFL 1 just to get that prepped in advance there. We will have a mailbag on today's show, and we need your questions to make that happen. So 2 ways to get on the show. Number 1, a super chat, guaranteed. We'll throw it up there in the mailbag and or before that if it comes in the next minute or so. Or you can simply use hashtag NFL. Now, if you're just putting questions in there without the hashtag NFL, it's not going to come through. So at that point, you need to actually put the hashtag NFL in there. So I see Tony Fuentes just did that. Exactly right, my friend. Get your hashtag NFL, whatever, questions, comments. It can even be a theory, whatever, ideas you've got. It doesn't have to directly be a question. It's just the mailbag side of it there. So get them in for me via hashtag NFL in the live chat. Now, if you can't wait for the NFL to return, then like today's show for me. We're at 21 likes. The goal was always that 50% like ratio. We're about a quarter of the way there. So I want this to be a habit here for all the shows, at least the ones that I do, because you guys like me, right? Like the video. Simple, free, easy. Allows you to get more in your feed, grow the company as well. We just put in new carpet, building out another studio, I suppose. There's a lot of them these days. Another studio behind me. That'll be ready for week 1. So like that video if you haven't already done so. Coming up on today's live edition of NFL Daily, some NFL news, rumors, etc. A mailbag, 2 ways to get on the show there again. Hashtag NFL, like I see Gavin and Rat Jez, maybe that's wrong, I don't know. C Sporty, Mike and more. We got you covered there. Hashtag NFL or super chat for the mailbag. And we'll run through the top 2025 running backs in PFF's list there. All coming up live here on NFL Daily. Chat Sports has it covered for all the latest and greatest NFL news and rumors. Before we went live here moments ago, Nico Collins getting a 3-year, around $24 million extension. We've got you covered with that update. And, of course, some juicy NFL rumors out there. You want more free coverage? Hit that sub button right now. Let's stick with the wide receiver room. Nico Collins getting a big fat extension. I think well-deserved given how well he played last year for Houston. Courtland Sutton now also looking for a new deal. That one, of course, was going on before Collins got paid. He was not present at OTAs as he looks for an adjustment to his contract. Here's what Sutton is set to make over the next 2 years in cash, i.e. what he's making in terms of actual dollars and cents, not stuff that's already been paid to him. $13.6 million, $14 million. He wants a bit of a pay raise, somewhere to the $15 to $16 million range per ESPN's Jeremy Fowler. And there's no guaranteed money left on his deal. I get that part. He has not been that good. And look, quarterback plays a real factor in that. I think we can acknowledge that. Denver's had some inconsistent quarterback play. Hoping Bo Nix ends up being the guy now as they move forward. but he has not put up a 900-yard season in over 4 years. And it's a little tough on one hand for him to go, yeah, Sutton, you're by far our number one wide receiver, but, geez, can we really give you an extra pay raise on top of that? At the same time, Denver doesn't want to let him leave or play too much hardball here because the other receivers are not good. Or at least they're not proven. At least they're not good enough to be a number one receiver. Maybe that's a better way of putting it. Like, if Josh Reynolds is your 3, we saw that can work. Marvin Mims is your 2, maybe. Troy Franklin, I like him, but he was a 4th-round pick. Denver needs Courtland Sutton in this wide receiving core to not be the worst receiving core in the NFL. And when you have a young quarterback, you spent a top 15 pick on in Bo Nix, smart NFL franchises don't trade away all of their good wide receivers and say, good luck, rookie. Have fun. And yeah, there's Tim Patrick in there too, but he's always banged up and he's good when he's healthy, but you can't really trust him. We've seen flashes of good play out of Tim Patrick, to be fair, but he basically hasn't played football in 2 years now. In fact, he literally hasn't. And his best year was about 700 yards, which is good. But in 2 years, it's tough to really trust him there. So what should Denver do with Courtland Sutton? T for trade him, P for pay, or W for wait? It's the pinned comment on today's show. If that ad comes on YouTube, that's just fine. Ignore it. Head down, type T, P, or W. Speaking of contracts, interesting stuff being reported here around Jordan Love, the Packers quarterback. So, of note, Love is in the final year of his contract. Now, he is not making that much money. He's owed about $17 million this year, part of the kind of like not franchise tag, but kind of franchise tag deal he got from Green Bay. Ian Rappaport says it is a matter of when, not if, he becomes among the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL. And Mike Garafolo is saying, you know what? He'll actually be in Joe Burrow territory, i.e., maybe not just among, but the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. Love had been asked, are you okay with playing on your current deal? He's like, we'll see. So not really a commitment there, but he's also at OTA. So, I think that's more just like, I have to keep some semblance of leverage available still, but I also got to be a leader. It's the weird part there. Here's the contract stuff. APY, average per year, the number that gets thrown around immediately, right? Joe Burrow's at $55 million per year. Jared Goff's now at 53. If you were to ask all 30 teams, not including the Lions and Green Bay, if you were to ask 30 teams, would you rather have Jared Goff or Jordan Love for the next 3 to 5 years? How many are picking Jordan Love over Goff? I don't think it's unanimous, but I think you might get more on Jordan Love. Isn't that the new? And then at that point, you're almost in Joe Burrow territory. Guaranteed money, though, is what matters to me here. We've seen teams get out of contracts because they structured it properly. There wasn't much guaranteed money. And the gap between Jared Goff's guaranteed deal and Joe Burrow's guaranteed deal is sizable. So I think the guaranteed money matters a lot more there. Daniel Jones got $40 million a year, right? He ain't even close to top 10 highest paid guarantee, though, because the Giants got that deal after a year. Now, or after this year, which at this point they're probably going to. So when it comes to the highest paid quarterback class, should Jordan Love be among that? Y for yes, N for no. Go ahead and sound off for me in the comment section of today's show. For me, it's a little bit of a tricky question because Jordan Love played lights out down the stretch last year. The final 10 games of his season, he completed 70% of his passes for 7.8 yards per attempt. That's an elite figure. 23 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. 2 of those INTs came in the final playoff game. And he lit up the Dallas Cowboys defense with ease. He looked like a top 5 quarterback down the stretch last year. The first 9 games, though, it's like, is Jordan Love a starting caliber quarterback? I don't know. Now, you definitely want to probably favor more of the more recent production from Love, but that's still a very small sample size to pay a guy $55-ish million a year. Now, with what we've seen growth-wise, I feel better about doing that. And to a certain extent, quarterback contracts kind of just become, it is what it is. It's all or nothing. You don't want to pay him $54 million. You want to give him, 49 or whatever. Well, $5 million at quarterback going to make or break you? It's if the quarterback is good enough. And at that point, it's kind of, it is what it is. Either pay him, pay the market rate, knowing it's crazy expensive, or just don't pay him at all. And if the Packers let's say the Packers give Jordan Love $55.1 million a year. He won't last a year as being a top 3 highest paid quarterback, I don't think. Because Trevor Lawrence will get that from the Jags, because the exacts aren't going to be made for Lawrence for Love. It's all about the upside, right? Tua might get that from Miami or somebody, and Dak will get that from Dallas, or maybe more likely somebody else altogether. So all of a sudden, okay, you overpaid in a year, it seems like a steal. You'd rather be on the front end of those big quarterback contract waves, not on the back end. But just got to hope that 10-game sample size was what you'll see from Love moving forward. And the small sample size is at least worth mentioning. Now, if you did not get the 2024 NFL Draft Hat for your favorite team, Fanatics has you covered. Chatsports.com/NFL Draft Hats. That link will be in the comment section and the description of today's show. All 32 NFL teams. So if, for example, maybe you're a Cardinals fan who hasn't been able to buy the Marvin Harrison Jr. jersey yet, you can at least get the draft hat that he wore. That's available. Links in the comments and the description of today's show. Chatsports.com/NFL Draft Hat. Let's talk trades here for Miles Sanders. His time in Carolina might be coming to an end soon. I don't know how much longer he's going to last. After signing a 4-year, $25.4 million contract last offseason, Sanders, frankly, was terrible. He was not good. He's due $4.22 million this year, which is the salary cap savings if the Panthers can find a trade partner after June 1st. They'd save a couple $100,000 if they cut him. After June 1st, it becomes a bit more financially manageable for Carolina to move on from Sanders. They drafted Jonathan Brooks. They signed Rashad Penny. They have Chuba Hubbard. They have Raheem Blackshear, who I think will make the team at least as a return man. Sanders went from one of the more hyper-efficient backs in the NFL in Philadelphia to one of the least efficient backs in football in Carolina. And I've often said we can blame supporting cast for a lot of stuff, especially in the backfield, but when the efficiency plummets, when the yards per carry plummet, and the other back on the roster is better in all those metrics by a good margin, that might be a you problem. But maybe he does just need a change of scenery. So maybe this Bleacher Report trade idea, Panthers get a 6th-round pick, Colts get Miles Sanders, actually could work out a little bit. Carolina, I mentioned that they have Brooks, they have Hubbard. Sanders is an RB3 who doesn't help on special teams. I don't know about that one. Raheem Blackshear, Rashad Penny. There's a scenario in which Carolina says, peace out, Miles. We're going to move on. Indy, meanwhile, obviously have Jonathan Taylor. Do we trust Evan Hall, Tyler Goodson, Trey Sermon as a backup trio? Maybe, maybe not. So I do think Indy could actually make some sense there for Miles Sanders. So name a player who you think ends up getting traded. Any player, any team, to any team. It could even be funny stuff and say, get ready to learn CFL, buddy. Name that player for me in the comment section right now. Let's check in on the Justin Simmons situation. So ESPN listed the Tennessee Titans as the best fit for Simmons, the former Broncos safety, who frankly, I am surprised is still unsigned. Here's the argument from Matt Bowen of ESPN, or Bowen, however you pronounce it. Sorry, either way. The top safety still available would be an easy fit under new Titans defensive coordinator Denard Wilson. Simmons is a high-level communicator in the secondary with deep range and great ball skills. He has at least 3 interceptions in 6 straight seasons and is a productive starter who is strong in run support. In Tennessee, Simmons would start opposite Amani Hooker, giving Wilson 2 interchangeable safeties with scheme versatility, bolstering a rapidly improving center that added cornerbacks with Jarius Sneed and Chidobe Awuzie this offseason. So do you think, before we go more in depth on this, that the Titans are the best fit for Justin Simmons. Type in 1 for yes or 2 for no. There's somebody else in mind. Go ahead and sound off for me in the comments of today's video. Frankly, I am surprised Justin Simmons is not yet signed. I would have ranked him at the top or at least near of the best available free agents for a good portion of this year's free agency cycle. And we're still over a month away from training camp happening, really almost 2 months for some teams. But I'm surprised no one's picked him up, and there really hasn't even been that much buzz about him. Yes, he is not the same guy he was in his prime. He's still a good football player. So if you are a team like Tennessee that could be in the market for safety help, yeah, I've got interest there. The safety room right now for Tennessee, I like Amani Hooker. I agree with Matt Bowen saying that the safeties are interchangeable. I think Elijah Molden is a fun chess piece on defense. He can do nickel stuff. He can do safety stuff. Gives you some flexibility involved there. But if one of those guys went down, I don't think anybody really has confidence in Mike Brown, who went to my alma mater, Shaheem Carter, Matthew Jackson, Keaton Ellis. Like, that's not a good safety room, I don't believe. So even if you rotate Molden or whatever, you give yourself some chances to do more free safety stuff, which the Ravens did last year with Denard Wilson as an assistant coach, I think Simmons actually makes a ton of sense for Tennessee. What does the money look like? It maybe isn't that expensive, but I think for the Titans, whether or not they're the best fit, I don't know. I think they are a good fit, though, for him. All right, mailbag time here on the show. 2 ways to get on. Number 1, use hashtag NFL, or skip that line altogether and super chat. I'm going to sip some water here. Or chug it, maybe, is a better way of going about it there. Use hashtag NFL or super chat. So, Eve, I appreciate that. If you're not using the hashtag, it's simply not going to come through. It's a mailbag here on NFL Daily, which you probably knew from the headline. But first up, from Tony, what do the Chiefs need to figure out next? How to hit copy, paste, do it again? I don't know. I think the Chiefs at this point, we know they will always be a contender. I don't know. Keep everyone healthy. Keep Mahomes healthy. Maybe that's the biggest thing there. I think overall, left tackle, in terms of who starts for you, is you have 3 different top 90 draft picks or 95 draft picks on your roster right now at tackle as opposite Juwan Taylor, Lucas Niang, Wanya Morris, and Kingsley Suamataia. Is it Suamataia? They probably got to figure out what the hell is going on with Rashee Rice out there. And probably a lot of long-term planning of, okay, how do we replace this guy, because you'll lose pieces. That's how it goes as the Super Bowl champion. But they're in pretty good shape, let's be honest. C Sporty, will the Lions sign or trade for a big-name receiver before the regular season begins? I'm a little surprised they kind of didn't do anything at wide receiver this year. Obviously, I love Amon-Ra St. Brown. They have an elite tight end in Sam Laporta who helps, the 2 unique playmakers to kind of lead your offense there. I am excited about Jameson Williams. You still got to replace a lot of targets and snaps from Josh Reynolds that can't all go to St. Brown, Laporta, and Williams. So maybe they're high on Donovan Peoples-Jones. It's possible. Is Khalif Raymond going to be more than a gadget player? I wouldn't get my hopes up there. So I wonder if the Lions window is passed, but I think that does make some sense. From Mike Nintendo Master, will the Falcons falcon it in the 2025 NFL Draft? I didn't like the Ruka Roro pick. I liked a lot of the other things they did beyond once they got past the Penix angle there. So I hope not, but the Falcons memes are not going to die. So if you're a Falcons fan watching, I apologize for Mike. But, I still think that they're going to need to add some pieces in the draft and not go quarterback again for hopefully a very, very, very long time. Andrew, the Saints can trade dudes like Alvin Kamara and Marshawn Lattimore, but will they? I don't think they're present at OTAs, by the way, which seems noteworthy. I don't think so, though. The Saints still think they can win games and be a contender. I don't agree with them. I wonder if this is the last hurrah for Alvin Kamara in New Orleans. They didn't really touch his contract right there. Maybe if they're bad to open up the year, they'll reconsider some things. But this GM, Mickey Loomis, wants to win games now. He's got great job security. He's going to keep being crazy aggressive in the end. So will the Saints trade Alvin Kamara? The pinned comment on today's show. Y for yes and for no at the pinned comment of this video. 30 racks. Tom, please tell me some teams that would take Bradbury. Otherwise, I'm going to have to give up for Chick-fil-A. I wouldn't get your hope. Maybe somebody does. Maybe what you do is you hold on to him until further into the camp and someone gets injured and you shop him. The money's kind of an issue. In general, I love what Howie Roseman does. I love the aggression that he does stuff with. This is one of the possible downsides where you felt good about keeping James Bradbury because he had played great, and you're like, this is going to be a key corner for us, and then he was bad, and now the contract is an issue. The contract would not be a problem if the player was good. The player's not playing well. So maybe somebody flips you a late day 3 pick. Howie's is a trade genius over there, so I wouldn't rule it out, but I also would maybe not get my hopes up that high either. From Drake Games, well, look, Kendrick won. Will DK get traded to the Steelers? I don't think so. I'm going to throw some shade at my guy, Jack Sparrow here. He's been convinced all season Steelers are going to get a star receiver. It's going to happen. I kind of don't think it's going to. Again, maybe something surprising changes. I don't think Ayuk's going to get dealt. Debo kind of doesn't fit what I think they're looking for, and maybe he doesn't get dealt either. I don't think a trade happens. I think, like Seattle wants to, new regime, they want to see how Geno plays. Maybe give Sam Howell a shot late in the year if Geno's bad or something. They don't normally trade away talented young wide receivers, and I think at this, DK isn't even that young anymore in terms of like how much he has left in the tank. How much better he can get. He's been about a perennial 1,000-yard receiver. So if that's like the ceiling, that's really good. People are like, he had a down year last year. I'm like, he caught 1,000 pass yards on only 66 grabs. Could have gotten the ball even more. I think he's still a great player. I think he's just kind of at his plateau, which is 1,000 yards every year. That's good. Now, today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. With Prize Picks, you can turn $10 into $1,000 in a single game watching your favorite sports this summer. Prize Picks has you covered every week with different promotions, from lowering players' stat projections on Tuesdays, which increases chance of getting a win, to getting your entry fees back if you have a losing lineup on Fridays. Over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app, and they'll give you a first deposit match up to $100 when you go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS. I always like the flex plays. It's a key part of my Prize Picks plan. You can get one wrong, still come out on top. My season-long Prize Picks looks like this: Mahomes passing yards, Dak passing yards, Lamb receiving touchdowns, and Micah sacks. All those numbers, the projected Prize Pick stats there, are far less than what they did last year. They stay healthy, they're going to hit it. So give me the more than on that. So download the app today at prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy with Prize Picks. Gavin Powell, since the Giants are in need of cornerback help, could they go out and sign maybe Stephon Gilmore, Xavier Howard, Patrick Peterson, Steven Nelson, a veteran that would help Deonte Banks? Honestly, I wouldn't be that mad if they just brought back Adoree Jackson. There's actually several good corners out there on the open market. My answer is yes. I think adding a veteran makes a lot of sense for New York. Take your pick. Maybe Xavier Howard would fit the defense decently. If you really want the vet mentor side of it, I think Patrick Peterson could be an intriguing fit too. Although maybe he goes back and plays safety. I think cornerback help would be smart. From Mike, with the Chiefs trade for Deebo Samuel, Do you guys remember when the NBA vetoed the Chris Paul trade? I think the NFL might have to veto the Debo trade. Debo's not the guy that he was. That's why he's potentially available. The injuries kind of added up, I think, a little bit there, and injury concerns remain. But, my God, all that weird backfield motion shit that the Chiefs do and, like, the jet sweeps, instead of giving it to Mecole Hardman and Kadarius Toney, now it goes to Debo Samuel? That's just not fair. So I hope not, frankly. From Platinum Edition, it took me a second to read that. Chance Simmons ends up in New Orleans. It's the Saints, so even though they never have any money, and then all of a sudden they always do because they get how to manage the cap. Never say never. It does make sense, though, right? Because there's Tyrann Mathieu and you guys sold on Jordan Howden. Going to give a bunch of, Will Harris or Alontae Taylor going to try out at safety, maybe? Not an outlandish idea, and one that I would think fit the win now mold for the Saints. From Sawyer, why are players like Xavier Howard or Justin Simmons not signed? It's a great question. Howard might be because of the injury status there. Sometimes as these players get older, the NFL's not as high on them. NFL's ageist. They don't like old people. They're like, get out of here. We're going to go with the young, cheaper guy. So I think age is a factor there. It's kind of what Stephon Gilmore said. He wasn't wrong when he said that either. I think the timing has been a little tricky as well. Howard's coming off injury. Maybe Simmons wants to wait more till training camp. But it's a potential red flag. Like, hey, why aren't those guys signed yet? Why? Maybe the NFL is not as high on them as us as fans / media is. Now, who do you think is the best NFL free agent left unsigned? Go ahead and sound off in the comments section for me right now. From EV, hi, I think Carolina should trade Miles Sanders and Terrace Marshall to the Colts for a 4th and 7th round pick. I don't think you can get a 4th for those guys. In fact, if you get a 7th for both of them, I think that'd probably be a pretty big win for Carolina because you're getting the Sanders contract off your books, which I think right now is a net negative asset, and Terrace Marshall's been a pretty big disappointment. From that one Falcons fan, Falcons is unthinkable. Potentially win the Super Bowl. We have the offense. The defense is sufficient as long as we get a vet corner and Stephon Gilmore at Bengals defenseman Trey Hendrickson. So bad news first off, you're not going to get Hendrickson. He is already back at Bengals OTAs. His trade demand lasted like 2 weeks. And it was the most obvious, this is not happening trade demand. It was I want a new deal. If you're not going to give me a new deal, you should trade me, or I will hold out, or I will retire. Because nothing says, legitimate trade demand and extension demand like I will not take any money instead. So he's not available. It's also kind of why I would have loved to take like Dallas Turner at edge. Like, does anything feel good about it? Can maybe add a vet like Yannick Ngakoue? If that helps you out as a pure pass rusher. I do like the idea of adding a vet corner though as well. They should win. They can win the NFC South. They'll probably be favored to do it. And then they're in the dance, and who knows what could happen then. Davo98, pick a Super Bowl matchup. The Chiefs Chiefs-Niners is probably your betting favorite, but that's boring. I don't want to go with the rematch, so I'll pick 2 entirely new teams here. Give me the Ravens to get over the hump in the AFC. How about, screw it, let's go with the Lions. I have little confidence in that, but at least it's fun. And if you guys enjoy our NFL mailbags, then subscribe. The only way to be a part is to join the live shows on Mondays and Thursdays. Hit that, or Tuesdays and Thursdays. Just forget what day you're on sometimes. YouTube.com/chatsportstv. From Tony, what are the possibilities of the Chiefs to keep Mecole Hardman? Is it more likely they'll keep him on the roster or trade? Well, Hardman actually is a free agent right now. He was not brought back by KC. It's Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, Rashee Rice, Justin Watson, Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, and maybe Justin Ross, who the fantasy people are in shambles right now about that because they were convinced he was going to be a star. Anyway, so I think he'll go somewhere else. Maybe he gets brought back if the Rashee Rice suspension is super long, but Chiefs also might give Sky Moore one last chance. For Papichulo sits, any other DTs available for trade outside of Jonathan Allen for the Bears? Probably are some. It might not be the biggest of names. Maybe even like a John Ridgway's available as a backup lineman for the Commanders, or a Fidarian Mathis, and they want to keep Allen. I don't know if any star DTs are available, at least for now. Can always revisit around the trade deadline. Maybe a team's struggling, they're not playing well, they're going to shop some stuff then. Maybe trade deadline ends up making more sense for Chicago. From Martin, if the Cowboys aren't going to pay CeeDee Lamb or Micah, why not trade one? Remember how the Cowboys operate. They don't pay, then they pay later on and pay more. So I think they'll get deals done for all those guys. Dak, we'll see. But CeeDee Lamb, I think that deal gets done around training camp. Micah Parsons gets done next year around training camp. And Dallas will pay a premium for those two players because it's hard to trade away a top 5 receiver and a top 5 edge when you've won 12 games 3 years in a row. It's not like you're an actually bad football team. Now the playoff results are bad. The team isn't bad. I think you can also argue that Lamb and Micah, given their age and contracts, are probably among the most valuable non-QBs in the NFL. Players like Myles Garrett, Nick Bosa up in San Francisco, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, who maybe Surtain and Sauce Gardner, maybe Penei Sewell too. Who is the most valuable non-QB in the NFL? Go ahead and vote in the comments. One more here from EV. Should Minnesota trade for Surtain? They genuinely do not have the draft capital. Unless they want to give away Justin Jefferson, which they shouldn't do. I think Surtain, who also I think works well for that most valuable non-QB question, he's going to get a bag. He'll be the highest paid corner in NFL history, and he's worth every penny of it. So I wouldn't get your hopes up for a trade for him. We had several questions there on the Chiefs. So will they do it again and win another damn Super Bowl? Why for yes and for no? I'm going to sip some water here. Not trying to be anti-Chief here when I say this. I hope not. I don't want them to win again. I'm not a Chiefs fan. I would like to see somebody else win because I would like my team to win. This is not their year, by the way. But I think somebody else will win it. I hope somebody else will win it. I don't feel good about predicting it, though. It's anyone other than Kansas City. They had zero good, reliable, consistent, actual receivers last year. Rashee Rice is an underneath god, but he's not a real wide receiver. Travis Kelce isn't even prime Travis Kelce anymore, and it didn't matter. It's very, very frustrating to me. And if you're a Chiefs fan, I'm sure it's a very exciting time for you as well. So get your answers in. Why for yes and for no. On today's show, we're breaking down the top running back prospects according to PFF's big board. Since shout out PFF being one of the few outlets that have a good list of early prospects to break down. Nothing from ESPN at this time. Let's go to the running backs. We did quarterbacks already. In the backfield, Ollie Gordon II out of Oklahoma State leads the way. Don't have any major complaints there. The production speaks for itself. The jump from 2022 to 2023 for the Doak Walker Award winner was pretty damn impressive. He had a fantastic football campaign for Oklahoma State. Really put up impressive production overall. He had some awesome play for Oklahoma State. 1,700 yards is just bonkers. My main question mark there after 21 scores on the ground, I am curious how much top-end speed he has. He's good size. I don't know if he's the same top-end burner, but he is a very, very good athlete. Maybe not an elite-level athlete. Do you want more 2025 NFL draft videos? If you do, type in me in the comments section because I hope that's every single person watching. Now, the running back one battle, I think, will go on throughout the season. Quinshon Judkins out of Ohio State, he transferred this year after spending 2 remarkably impressive seasons at Ole Miss, where he had really good production. He has had Over 3,000 total yards from scrimmage over the past 2 seasons. He has been highly, highly productive, and now I think is going to be in a fantastic scheme fit for him. Not that he wasn't already. At Ole Miss or at Ohio State, the size, the speed is all there. I might give the slight edge to Judkins over Ollie Gordon. That's, of course, for now. North Carolina's Amarian Hampton is next up here out of North Carolina. Curious how that offense looks this upcoming season. I suspect they will lean pretty heavily on Hampton. 1,500 yards last year. By the way, I think all 3 of these guys, you could have had arguments of this guy might have been RB1 had they been draft eligible this past season. 6 foot 220, has the size that I like, but I also saw plenty of big plays. In a running back class last year that I liked on kind of that round 3, early day 3 range, I think there's a little bit more top-end ability early on in this year's class. So will a running back go in round 1 in 2025? Y for yes, N for no. It is the pinned comment on today's video. If that ad comes on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and go vote. I am very glad to see PFF put the Boise State running back at number 4 on their list. That is Ashton Jeanty for the Broncos. Under the radar player, not that many people watching blue turf games these days. Nearly 2,000 total yards from scrimmage last season. 19 touchdowns, by the way. Had 1,347 yards on the ground. 5'9", 210, so short but strong build. Really good leverage. I think he's showcased plenty of big plays as well. I mean, that efficiency is pretty damn good right there. Also offered some pass-catching value. Not a household name, but he might be soon. That's 2 Ohio State running backs in the top 5, and you can argue that 3 is too low for Travion Henderson. He is now going to enter his 4th year, and the question mark is, can he get back to the freshman year version? Freshman year, Travion Henderson with 1,248 yards at 6.8 yards per carry. People were like, this guy's going to be a guaranteed first-round pick. And he got banged up in 2022 and wasn't as efficient in 2023 as the offense overall wasn't as good either. Now he's going to split time with Judkins, forming the best running back duo in college football by a pretty massive margin, and also might bring down both of those guys' numbers. In fact, it might have been if there was one of those guys there, they might have pushed for the Heisman Trophy. Only having 2 guys, though, might not be as possible there. Now, if you want this past year's NFL Draft Hat, you can get yours today over at chatsports.com/NFL Draft Hat. I would highly advise you click that link and make sure you look closely at the hats themselves. You can kind of see it on screen, but they're doing kind of like a 3D effect with some differing colors of the team's logos. I think it looks better in person than it does on the video, and will look even better once you click the link there. So check it out today. Chatsports.com/NFL Draft Hats. Link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. Let's go out west again. Jaden Ott out of Cal. He has showcased pass-catching value in the past. He had 46 catches back in the 2022 campaign. I, for one, find that at least semi-valuable. He's only 6 foot 200, so that's a little bit of a slender build. You look at 200 pounds. Judkins is 5'11", but 210. That's a kind of sizable height mass there. But the speed is there. I'm a sucker for big plays, and I'll probably end up being pretty high on Jaden Ott. I am very curious how we view Donovan Edwards coming into this season. Edwards, back in 2020, in a committee role with Blake Corum, legitimate arguments that he was a better player than Blake Corum was. He had almost 1,000 yards, 7 yards per carry, and then, frankly, wasn't that good last year. Like, Blake Corum was way better than Edwards was. But now Corum's gone. Edwards is the lead back. There's a new quarterback for Michigan. This current regime, they want to run the football just as much, if not more so. Edwards could have a massive breakout season. like even better than it was in 2022. And I liked him a lot. And there were people who liked him more than Corum, and I get that. Didn't go pro, which I'm glad about because it gives me the full eval time. I don't have to be like, oh, but last year. Now it's like, hey, it was either these last 2 years or he got back to form, right? So I'm glad he went back because it just makes it easier on me. It's always the Michigan-Ohio State rivalry, right? Who gets picked first? QJ for Quinshawn Judkins. DE for Donovan Edwards. TH for Travion Henderson. Go vote in the comments. Got a lot of transfers we'll deal with across college football. That's how it goes in the NIL free agency era. Trevor Etienne. Going, wait a minute. Etienne? I know that name, Etienne. Yeah, it's his brother. It's Travis Etienne's brother. Going to Georgia this year. Spent his first 2 seasons at Florida with sometimes really good, sometimes not so good results. I don't think the step forward happened in 2023. His yards per carry dropped. Make no mistake, there have been moments of brilliance out of it. He also got more involved in the pass game this year, which I really do value. This past year, he ran all over Tennessee. 23 carries, 172 yards, and a score. Also had 11 carries for 29 yards against Kentucky. Did nothing in that game. Had 4 carries for 9 yards against Vanderbilt one year, and they had a committee involved there. So, which version? He had 17 for 129 and a score as a freshman against Florida State. Last year, 10 for 43. Inconsistency is the name of his game right now. Another maybe less known name is Devin Neal, the Kansas running back who he could have gone pro last year, and he would have been drafted. He had 1,000 yards each of the past 2 seasons. I am curious how he will fare with, I believe there was an offensive coordinator change this past season for Kansas. But I'm curious how that all tends to fit for him moving forward. Now, my Cowboys fans always ask me about Taj Brooks, which I get. That is how things tend to go here. That is the Texas Tech running back who, for whatever reason, the Big 12 had all of the rushing yards this past season. Just massive production left and right. And Taj Brooks was part of that. On 290 carries, he had 1,538 yards. He is a big boy. He's 5'10", listed size, of course, so asterisk it if you need to. But he's 5'10", 230. I wonder if he has the top-end juice and speed. He'll also be an older prospect with a lot more mileage on his body. I kind of think he might have been better off turning pro this past year. But hey, gets to go back to college for 1 more year, and that's always entertaining. We'll have more 2025 NFL draft coverage for you right here on the channel, so do not miss out. Hit that sub button right now. Let's go out east now to Rutgers as Kyle, make sure I pronounce his name correctly, hopefully, Monungai, had a massive breakout year this past season for the Scarlet Knights. Major jump in his level of production to over 1,000 yards this past season. Listed at 5'9", 207, powerful, physical runner, which kind of makes sense given how big his neck and shoulders are. If I showed you a photo with no stats, you'd go on power runner, right? It's Kansas State, number 12, DJ Giddens, 6'1", 200 pounds. I'm curious to see if he can add some mass and maintain some speed. He's not built like Deuce Vaughn at all, but I don't know if he's the same top-end burner that some of these other guys are in this year's class. Big jump in production, though. Was kind of stuck behind Deuce Vaughn, who was an elite college football player. Had a fantastic year of his own. Curious how he fares again for Kansas State this upcoming season. Another transfer here on today's list, that is Damian Martinez, who I think also was probably one of the more underrated players in college football last year. Had 1,000 yards on less than 200 carries. Transferred to Miami, Florida, where they've also got a bunch of transfers out there. The thing I need to see most here from Martinez, pass catching. You got to help on third downs, especially when you're going to be probably a later pick. With Bucky Irving gone, Jordan James at Oregon gets to take over that kind of lead back role, which I am that offense is kind of a Mickey Mouse offense, but it's really productive. Small sample size for Jordan James, but he averaged 7 yards a carry. Now, I would wager all of my dollars that the yards per carry is going to dip. But if the overall yardage stays efficient and he gets like 5 yards a carry on doubling the carries, that's still really good, I believe. Now, who do you think is the top running back prospect, or even just a running back prospect that got left out by PFF? Drop that player name for me in the comment section right now. Now, the other top running back prospects not in PFF's list. I would not sleep on Nicholas Singleton. This is a freaky athlete who wasn't as productive last year, but they hired the Kansas offensive coordinator, Andy Klutnick, however you pronounce it, who had great success with Devin Neal. Have a big year. Raheem Sanders was a non-factor in only 2 games last year for Arkansas. Now goes to South Carolina. Joquavius Marks has had some success previously. Now over at USC, he transferred. Phil Maffa flashed behind Will Shipley at Clemson. And Roman Hemby had a decent year for Maryland. A lot of good running back prospects here. Some might go back to school. I think it's a quality class as we sit in the early summer scouting version of it. All right, should Jordan Love be among the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL? Y for yes, N for no. It is the pinned comment on today's show. 60% say no, 40% say yes. Get those comments in, Y or N. We will not go to loop today because there's just no reason to. So we'll end on this question. Y or N in that comment section. 60% say no. Mike Nintendo Master is trying to destroy Green Bay from within. I appreciate that, Mike. See you guys on Thursday, plus throughout the week with more NFL videos, so don't go anywhere.